But despite what you may have heard, I am not George. My name is Lee Walton. I'll be your moderator at today's panel. It's been my honor to work with George as the editor on both of his graphic memoirs. They called Us Enemy, and now It Rhymes with Takei. George needs very little introduction to the Comic-Con audience. He has been beloved by the nerd community for what seems like forever. He is a civil rights activist, a social media superstar, a New York Times best-selling author, an Eisner Award-winning co-author, and a pioneering actor whose career spans 6 decades. He's been in more than 40 feature films, hundreds of television roles, most famously as Hikaru Sulu on a little show He's always used his success as a platform to fight for social justice, LGBTQ rights, and marriage equality. His advocacy is personal. During World War II, he spent his childhood unjustly imprisoned by the United States government in military concentration camps, along with 125,000 other Japanese Americans. He told that story so eloquently in They Called Us Enemy. And now, today, we're going to find out how personal his advocacy is of LGBTQ issues as well. He's the author of 5 previous books. His latest, before this one, was a picture book for children called My Lost Freedom, a Japanese-American World War II story. And we are so thrilled that George is returning to the graphic memoir format for the sequel to They Called Us Enemy, It Rhymes with Takei, about his lifetime in and out of the closet, and how it set the seeds for his amazing future. We have a little clip to play for you, and we're going to bring George on stage. So please, everybody, join me in welcoming George Takei.
It's great being here in this beautiful part of the world, California, and one of the most beautiful parts of California, San Diego. How many of you are native of San Diego? I'm a native of Los Angeles. And we're going to have an engaging 1 hour talking about me. This is my editor, Lee Walton, and believe me, he's a charming guy. Look at the way he's dressed.
George, you stole my first question, which is, what in the world are we wearing?
Well, you're wearing a very sparkling, all the way from top of your shoulders to your ankles, in this glittery material that fits your glittery personality. I'm wearing something that we found in Honolulu, Hawaii. A very popular designer named Ann Namba, and she had a showroom. So Brad, my husband, and I strolled in. We were there to celebrate a fundraiser for the Japanese American National Museum, which I'm a trustee. And we started looking, and we said, why not wear something that's on Ann Namba for the dinner there? And we looked, and we found something, and this is one that I chose, and Brad chose something much more aggressively spectacular. Except today he didn't feel too aggressive, so he dressed in his normal clothes. Lee and I decided to shine for the city. And we're going to be talking about part of my life that I kept hidden for most of my adult life. And I came out. And when I came out, I said, well, really come out. And how do we come out that we're gay? Well, we're going to go to the Comic-Con, and I'm going to wear an Namba. He's going to wear his glittery outfit, and this is a gay conversation.
Thank you, George. We are going to talk a little bit more about this amazing jacket you're wearing later on. We're going to do a callback, folks. But my other question is, let's address the elephant in the room. You're in a wheelchair. And this is a recent thing that we've both been dealing with on this book tour for you. And I understand you have a foot injury that is an old running injury, right?
It is an old running injury for which I had 2 surgeries already. Both of them failed utterly. And they wanted to try it a 3rd time. I said, no way. We've tried it twice and we failed, and I'm not going to go through that again. But it was so inconvenient, and particularly my second toe on my left foot decided to act up. It was very, very painful. And I said, I can't live life like this. So I am going to try my 3rd time, despite the fact that the doctor has said that he can't guarantee success. So I'm boldly going.
In the meantime, you get to be the helmsman of this wheelchair.
Actually, I need assistance on my wheelchair.
I'm the engine room, you're the helmsman. How about that?
You're the engine. You make it move.
This running connection brings me to one of the big themes of the book. And running is something that you did very early on. There's scenes of you in junior high school in a track and field club. And it comes up again.
Well, it was a class, not a club.
I see, track and field class. And one of your running friends actually comes out to the strawberry fields with you in one of the early scenes of the book. But then it comes back when you're an adult. And tell us a little bit about joining the front runners.
The front runners, some of you, I suspect, know about it and might even be members. There is a chapter of the front runners in almost every city in the United States. It's a running club made up of, first of all, people who love running, but the other important quality about the members of the front runners is that they're gay, guys and gals who love running and love each other. And, I had been closeted most of my adult life because at the beginning I was passionately in love with acting. I wanted to be an actor, and I knew that producers would not hire you if it was known that you're gay. And that was very strongly emphasized to me when one of my heartthrobs, some of you might remember the name Tab Hunter. Is this a senior citizen? I can't see you. I usually get judged by shine of their head. You do have a shine on me. What was I saying? Tab Hunter. I was a Tab Hunter fan. I went to see every one of his movies. He was a contract actor at one of the studios, and the fan magazines had him dating Natalie Wood, and they were supposed to be a couple. And I loved Tab Hunter on screen. He was good-looking, blonde, personable, always the hero, and somehow managed to take his shirt off at least for one scene. And
now it clicks into place.
oh, it clicked. I mean, even with his shirt on, I was in love with him.
He was a very good actor.
He was a good actor. Goes on. Even better without. It wasn't just his shirt. On an island with you. And he survived on that island with just raggedy trunks. And I think it was Linda Darnell. I didn't pay too much attention to but one of the scandal sheets exposing him as being gay, and suddenly he disappeared. But Warner Brothers didn't use him in any more leading roles, and he was the lead in Damn Yankees, where he was a baseball player, Battle Cry, he was a handsome soldiers off to war, but they suddenly disappeared. I knew he had a contract with Warner Brothers, but they just let the contract run out. And that was an object lesson for me. If you are gay, or known as gay, they're not going to use you. And I desperately wanted to have a career, hopefully like Tab Hunters. I'd be willing to take my shirt off. As a matter of fact, I did on television. Plus my pencil.
Give it up for Naked Time.
That episode was properly titled, yes. Except I kept my pants on.
It was the 60s.
It was the 60s, yes. I don't think I would have taken them out even in the 70s.
We'll get there, we'll get there.
So the fact that Warner Brothers let the contract run out without using it when he was making a lot of money for them, let me know that you wouldn't be cast in a movie or the big screen or television if it was known that you were gay. No producer would hire you for television because it's advertising. It's an advertising medium, and no advertiser wants to risk losing customers because of a gay actor in that episode. So I decided if I really wanted to be an actor, I'm not going to be able to let the public know how I felt. And the other thing that troubled me was from the time the word difference. I was different when I was a child because, well, visibly you can see I'm Asian, and specifically Japanese American, and we were at war with Japan, and I looked just like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. We are Americans, Japanese Americans. We have nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, but other than look like this. And however, the country went into war hysterics There are people that look like you that found Pearl Harbor living in this country, and particularly along the West Coast. And even the President of the United States went into hysterics because he realized that the West Coast was just like Pearl Harbor. People that look Japanese live in the densest parts of the West Coast. And he signed an order, Executive Order 9066, that ordered all Japanese Americans, more than 125,000 of us, to be summarily rounded up and imprisoned in barbed wire prison camps in some of the most detestable, isolated places in the world, and in the country. Arizona, can you imagine on those blistering hot desert of Arizona? There were 2 camps there. Can you imagine being in the swamps of Arkansas with those swampland infested with water moccasins and other poisonous creatures? And there were 2 camps in the swamps of Arkansas. There were camps in windswept high plains of Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. And so we were forced out of our homes at gunpoint. And I remember that morning when the soldiers came. It was a terrifying morning. They had bayonets on the rifles. And when my father answered her, pounding on the front door, one of them pointed his bayonet at my father. And we were just inches from there. We were paralyzed. I will never forget the terror of that morning. And we were taken out from there and taken to Santa Anita racetrack and housed in stinky horse stalls, pungent with the stink of horse manure. There were insects skittering around on the ground, flies buzzing in the air. And my baby sister immediately got sick. That was to be our home, a horse stall. And all the other places up and down the West Coast, and people were sent to county fairgrounds and forced to sleep where livestock was kept. They said it was a temporary home for you. For us, it was 4 months in that stinky horse stall. And then we were sent to the farthest east of all the camps in the swamps, a camp called Grover. And I still have memories of that whole 4 years that we were incarcerated. It was an unjust thing that happened only because we looked like this and only because the American government knew very little about us. The United States Navy, before Pearl Harbor, did a study of Japanese Americans in the United States, and they found in this study that, if anything, the Japanese Americans were probably the most patriotic minority group in the United States. They didn't pay attention to that report at all. They wanted to believe what they wanted to believe, and we were all in prison during the Second World War.
Unfortunately, that's some eerie echoes of what's happening today.
Indeed.
George, you wrote so powerfully about your childhood experience behind barbed wire fences in your first graphic memoir. They called this Enemy. Do we have some readers if they call us Enemy in the house today? The book has become such a phenomenon, and adopted into school curriculums and used by community reading programs, and we're so grateful to everyone who's getting out there, sharing that book with a friend, sharing that book with a child.
My biggest thrill was it was taken up by the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It was a big buy of the book. I think 4,000 copies. I walked into that huge auditorium, and the book was piled mountain high on a table that was almost as long as this. An immense collection of, they called us enemy. And then they ushered me to their stadium filled with the cadets, and on the ground floor, the upper echelon officers were seated there. I mean, it was like totally awe-inspiring. And my book was used to educate our future Air Force on a chapter of American history that too many Americans knew too little about. I think they're learning more about what the government did. In fact, the horrible thing is, things go in cycles. I recognize words like enemy alien. I recognize the behavior of a hysterical president. It's happening in our times again. We did not live in this.
Such a powerful moment. It's actually in the new book on page 320, but it was following along.
My editor is memorizing
the same military force that pointed a bayonet at your father and marched you into concentration camps for your entire childhood, that same U.S. military invited you and made your book required reading at their National Character and Leadership Symposium.
Amazing what a piece of literature, it's graphic memoir. I think it's like a comic book. Something that I discovered as a child when we were released from camp, and a whole world opened up. It was like Dorothy walking into Oz, because we had no radio, no newspapers, nothing. We were literally in prison, cut off from the outside world. And when the war was over and we were released, my father bought us, my brother and my baby sister, a comic book, and we shared the comic book. He bought us a portable radio, and audibly, different worlds opened up to us. I was exposed to stories that took place in Manhattan, New York City, the greatest city in the world, with the baddest criminals in the world, and the best crime fighters like Superman and Batman and Captain Marvel. But the world suddenly exploded on me. All these things, and they were in color. And so I love the fact that my gay book is able to tell the story in full color.
To shout out the wonderful artistic team and the entire team that made this book. Stephen Scott, Justin Eisinger, artist Harmony Becker, and newly on this book is colorist Jose Villarrubia, who brought these memories of yours to this vivid new life. You've talked about the transition from the camps to the wider world as a transition from black and white into color. And so we're thrilled that the second book is able to make that leap with you. Now, we know about the barbed wire fences that you grew up inside. But in this new book, you talk about a different kind of barbed wire fence. Tell us about that.
Well, we were confined, as I say, behind those barbed wire fence, cut off from everything. We were free. And I went to school, and then I went into middle school and made a lot of friends. And I met a lot of people, and I also met something of myself. I made a discovery about myself. I was attracted to Bobby, who had the sweetest smile, or this athletic kid who came from, I think, a poor family, because his mother didn't buy him new clothes to fit his growing body. And he was a growing boy, very athletic. He was good at basketball, and I enjoyed watching him. His t-shirts, however, exposed a little bit of his tummy. It was too short. And when he made those baskets, the t-shirt came up and I saw more of his body. And that was exciting. Richard had a really fantastic build. And I looked around and I thought, none of the other boys felt like the way I felt. They took it all in stride, but I was wishing for him to reach up and get that basket because he excited me so. And I discovered I was different again. I was different visibly when I was a kid, and that's why we were prison. But this time, my difference was inside me. I felt attracted and excited by other boys, and none of the other boys seemed to feel that way. And I didn't want to be subjected to any harassment or anything like what Japanese Americans did. So I decided I'm going to keep it to myself. But as I grew older and I developed this passion for acting and this aspiration for becoming an actor, I realized that I had to keep that feeling inside to not let everybody know. And so when the other boys started to date in their teens, I dated other girls, friends, but no great passion of mine. In fact, I double dated with my friends and got a female friend to go with me. I was living a secret life, and I found that living in an invisible barbed wire fence camp, a new internment. I was interned as a child because I looked this way. I was interned with this invisible barbed wire fence that kept me from being true to who I was. And I hid it for most of my life, through college, through adult life. And it wasn't until I was 68 years old that I came out. That's very late.
I want to stay in this moment for a minute, because to me it's really the core of the book and the beating heart of the book. And really the most painful part is that the first camp was built by the United States military to trap you inside, and the second camp was kind of built by society, but society kind of made you build that wire yourself. They made you imprison yourself in your heart. And I know that that was very painful for you.
Well, I called it silent harassment. because my difference then, as an adult, was not visible. And so people felt at liberty to talk about gays. The words that they used were faggot and freaks and all that kind of word in my presence on the movie set. The crew people were sitting around chit-chatting, and one of them would say, "I think there's a faggot bar right by the studio," and the other would say, "Nah, that couldn't be, not right by the studio." And he says, "Well, I saw two guys holding hands going in there," and they, so they felt at liberty to use words like that, faggot, when it really made me bristle, and because they felt at liberty to be who they were. They didn't think that I would be sensitive to what they were saying. And so I became what I call silent harassment. My whole body felt like electric goosebumps were going through them. It was a combination of rage, humiliation, discomfort, and I had to be silent and accept it. That was part of being imprisoned in my invisible barbed wire fence skin, all the way to the point when I reached 68 years old, and something happened that brought me out.
Should you tell that story? Yeah.
Things were happening. Here, the issue was inside, and outside, beyond my fence, things were happening. There were activists, LGBTQ activists, who were advocating and demonstrating, talking to Congress people about recognizing the injustice being perpetrated on LGBTQ people. And here I was silent. I was standing by the sidelines. But their activism was making progress. In 2003, the state of Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled for marriage equality. And this was because of the activism of the LGBTQ people who were sacrificing all. Here I was protecting my career employability, and staying silent. Well, because of that, Massachusetts got marriage equality. And then 2 years later in California, the people's representatives, their elected representatives, the state senate and the state assembly, the state legislature passed the marriage equality bill, just like they did in Massachusetts, although Massachusetts got it through the courts. This was a real achievement, and it was an exciting, thrilling thing that was happening, and I was not a part of it. But that bill, the marriage equality bill in California, needed one more signature to make it the law of the state. That of the governor of California, who was also a movie star. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger. When he ran for governor, he ran by saying, "I'm from Hollywood. I've worked with gays and lesbians. Some of my friends are gays and lesbians," giving and creating the impression that he supported LGBTQ people and that the LGBTQ people liked him. And so many assumed that he would sign the marriage equality bill. I was suspicious because the way he voted on so many other issues was against equality for LGBTQ people. And so when the bill landed on his desk, he acted as I suspected he would. He vetoed it. And I was raging angry. This was a bill that was passed by the people's elected representatives. This is democracy. The people that voted for the bill were in the Assembly and the Senate. And it was an expression of the voters of California. And yet, this lying governor said he didn't agree with it, and he vetoed it. When the press challenged him, he peppered him with questions. All he kept saying was one sentence over and over again. I have no problem with it, but I vetoed it. And well, why? I have no problem with it, but I vetoed it. That's the only thing he kept saying. He had no rational reason, after having created the impression that he was a friend of LGBTQ people. It was outrageous. And then it was revealed that he was having a relationship with his own housekeeper under the nose of his wife, Maria Shriver.
It's the sanctity of marriage.
Sanctity of marriage. He took that vow. And so he was lying as a husband, and he was lying as the governor of the state of California. There is no place for liars, hypocrites, in a democratic form of government.
Over the edge?
It got me raging angry, but I didn't make that decision yet. Brad is my husband then. He wasn't my husband then. It was because he vetoed it. Couldn't even get married. But Brad cautioned me. He said, "You've got to be careful. You know, you've got your career to worry about." But I said, no, I'm determined. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come out. But I wanted to talk to a few of the people. I was rehearsing for a play that we were doing at the East West Play, a wonderful dramatic play, role that I really love getting my teeth into. Red meat.
Shout out to the play Equus.
Richard Burke did it on Broadway first. I saw it in London first. Before that, Arthur Hopkins played the Dr. Dysart.
Now, George, I know this is the gay panel, but if we start talking theater history, we're going to be here all day.
Well, one thing I have had, we can bring Star Trek into it. My Star Trek friend, Leonard Nimoy, and when I was doing Dysart at East West Players, Leonard and his wife came to see it, and the ushers came backstage to tell me, Leonard Nimoy is here. He played it after Richard Burton and Tony Perkins and a few other actors, but he did it on Broadway. He was the last to do it on Broadway. And so he was in the audience, and I was really hurted about that. And after the performance, Leonard came back, and I said, well, Leonard, you did it on Broadway. How did I do at East West Players? And Leonard smiled at Leonard Nimoy's smile, and he said, you are better. He's alive. He's a good friend, a lying friend. After Yes.
not mine.
Yes.
So you were doing Equus, and you talked to the director of the show.
I did. Tim Tang was the director. He was well connected with other leaders in the LGBTQ community, and he suggested that I should think about it, and he urged me to do it, but do it in a way that would protect you and your interest as an actor as well. He gave me good guidance, and he suggested that I talk to one publisher of a newspaper, a gay newspaper, and I spoke to him and invited him over to our home, and we talked, and he said he gave me good advice, and he said I should talk to this editor of this newspaper, and I spoke with him, and he gave me various other thoughts to think about before I made that decision, and I came and decided I will make that decision. And so I spoke to the press for the first time as a gay actor, and I blasted Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger's a veto. I'm a hypocrite. I just can't stand hypocrite in normal life, but as an elected official who has a responsibility to the idea of democracy, that hypocrisy is anti-democratic.
Identity and activism have always been intertwined. Your experience as a child meant that you became this outspoken voice for spreading the word about the internment and eventually getting reparations. You became an activist on so many other issues as well. And I think that's one of the great takeaways of the book, is that almost the energy that came from keeping this secret so tightly inside you, it had to come out somehow. And it came out as activism for all these other issues. You were in a musical in Los Angeles called Fly Blackbird, which was, I need people to understand, this was written at the cutting edge of the African American Civil Rights movement. It premiered on the 1-year anniversary of the Greensboro sit-ins. So we're talking the very early 60s. And George was part of this cast that was creating the show, and it's the time that you met Martin Luther King.
Yes, we became a hit show in Los Angeles. We played for 9 months, and that's a big, long run in LA. And we were invited to sing at each of the rallies in Los Angeles County, way out in the hinterlands as well as in the heart of the city. And it was an exciting time to be engaged in an issue that was at the edge of our society. And we spoke we sang at some of the top, the biggest rallies. The biggest was at the sports arena in Exposition Park in Los Angeles. And it was such a thrill marching into that vast arena, crammed filled with people, and applause. And as we marched together with Dr. Martin Luther King, and we sang our hearts out. And when he spoke, his ringing eloquence made the rafters rattle. He was tremendous, and we were completely awe-inspired and excited by his eloquence. And then we got an invitation to meet Dr. King himself in the dressing room of the sports arena. And so we were ushered downstairs, and I met him, shook his sweaty hands, and then I had a little bit of a sweat on my palm, and I chatted with him for, it felt like it was an hour. It was only a few minutes, and it was a great thrill. And this hand didn't get washed for about 3 days.
I think some of the folks in the room can understand what it feels like to meet one of your heroes. Well, and you were active in so many other issues, you know, bringing peace to the war in Vietnam, activism against nuclear weapons after the devastating bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Working on this book with you really helped me understand that when Star Trek comes into your life, you already have this context of understanding the power of diversity. And so when the role of Sulu is offered to you, it's already in line with the life that you're trying to build and the world you're trying to create.
Hollywood doesn't work that way. They don't immediately offer you that role. You get interviewed for it, and Gene Roddenberry, the creative producer, discussed it, and the decision took forever and a day. I felt like it was, you know, more than a month. Actually, it was only 10 days that I got the result. It was a fascinating interview. He said he felt that the 60s was an exciting time in the world and in the United States. He said the civil rights movement going on, the Vietnam War going on in Southeast Asia, and all these ferment going on, and none of it was being reflected echoed on television. Great drama, power, important issues, war and peace, and it's all game shows, comedy, and westerns. He said, how do I deal as a dramatist with all this rich dramatic potential and put it on television? And he said he thought he'd use metaphor and putting it in space, in the future. And his metaphor would be this round starship made up of people that was the strength of this planet. And the strength he felt came from the diversity, and he came up with an acronym. IDIC, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. The vast North America and South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, all working together in concert, each playing its part, providing different perspectives, different information, knowledge, experience, and trying to solve the same challenge. That's the strength. Diversity coming together and working as a team. And so the captain was a North American, and he was cast not with an American, but with a Canadian. From French-speaking Montreal, Bill Shatner. We even had a half human and half alien species. Pointy-eared, green-blooded, brilliant mind, totally absent of a sense of humor. Called Spock. And he became a fascinating character. He had galactic diversity in one. He was half alien and half humanoid. We had Europe represented by a Scottish engineer who had a heavy Scottish brogue, which in the 23rd century would be an anachronism because we wouldn't have accents. We now speak alike. But to emphasize diversity, he had a heavy Scottish brogue. That was done very well by an actor named Jimmy Doohan, who became a very good friend of mine. And Jimmy's fans, and as you all know, he was a great drinker. And I learned a lot from him at a bar after work at the studio. And he shared secrets with me in the bar. He said, I'm getting famous playing Wisconsin, but I'm really Irish. I'm not just Irish, but a Canadian. Irish Canadian was born in Vancouver, British Columbia. But he was a great guy, wonderful friend, a wonderful storyteller, and a great drinker. A lot about drinking and fine wines from Jimmy.
George, we are going to run out of time pretty soon.
Oh, so speed it up.
There's Star Trek secrets in the book. My particular favorites are the ones about Nichelle Nichols, who's one of your dearest friends.
Nichelle represented Africa and women. And I represented that vast area called Asia. But he was absolutely lost on the right name for this Asian character because every Asian surname is nationally specific. Tanaka is Japanese, Wong is Chinese, Kim is Korean, and 20th century Asia was rife with warfare, colonization, rebellion, and he didn't want to bring in all that. And so he was looking for something that suggested all the diversity of Asia. And he found off the coast of the Philippines a sea called the Sulu Sea. And he said, the waters of the sea touch all shores. And hence my
Yeah, there's so many wonderful stories in here. My favorite that we won't spoil for you is the pool party at Gene Roddenberry's house, which is a little spicy, but also really cuts to the heart of some of the issues addressed in this book. I can't wait for you guys to read it. And I do just have to bring it back full circle to this amazing jacket. Because as part of our research for this book, we found a picture of you in this jacket from almost exactly 20 years ago when you came out, and you were immediately almost one of the most high-profile gay men in the world, and you used that moment of coming out to be an assertive voice and almost make up for all those years of silence by being very outspoken. And you received an award for your activism. Both you and Brad received this award together in Los Angeles. And who was it that presented? So you wore this jacket at the awards ceremony, and who was it that presented the award to you, George?
It was none other than Tab Hunter.
George, I wish we could take all day and just tell these stories, but that's why you made the book, and we're so grateful that you did, working together with this amazing team, Justin, Harmony, Steven, and Jose. The book is available in a regular version and this special shiny edition, which is pre-signed by George and has a wonderful book plate of him and Brad.
website as sewn into the binding. And it's at the IDW Publishing booth where George will be doing signing at 3 o'clock today. If you've got a wristband, then we'll see you there. And if not, you can get the shiny pre-signed edition at our booth until they're sold out, and then online from the IDW website. Thank you all so much. Please enjoy the